So, welcome back to another Half and Half Scarf football podcast with me, Nick, and my mate Dom. Because we're at the end of the last international break of the season, and last week we covered can or will England win the World Cup. If you've not listened to that one, have a listen. Short podcast. It's not really, it's quite a long one. Discussions of why we probably think we won't, but we probably could. This one's also an international flavour. And on this episode, we've decided to look at the club v country conundrum. It's been very high profile this last week with a lot of withdrawals of Arsenal players from their international duties. We're going to use that as a starting point. We've got a lot of other things to talk about. This episode again is in association with our fan support partners Huddle Up, who do some fantastic work in the EFL, the Championship and the National League around bringing mental health and men's wellness and fan supporter wellness, actually, not just men, supporter wellness to the forefront of clubs and supporter groups. So if you are interested in supporting that, if you're invested in a club as either a fan liaison, supporter group, chairman or chairperson, or involved in the commercial aspect of any of the sort of 72 plus the National League, please get in touch with Huddle Up. We'll give you the details at the end of the episode. But before any further ado, we shall introduce you to my co-host as ever, Dom, and his dog. Hi,
My
Dom.
dog, yes, he's
Is
just
that
decided
men?
he wants a cuddle. He's big into his cuddles at the moment on knees. So yeah, welcome to Eddie, everyone. He's decided to be part of the podcast. Um,
Excellent.
so yeah, hi mate. Yeah, looking forward to this one. Good subject to get into at the end of the international break. Lots to talk about.
Good stuff. Quickly on the shirts. I'm still in mourning from Good Friday, which wasn't that good as a Borough
Yeah,
fan. Got turned over by Millwall, and hats off to Millwall. Met some of their fans on the way in. Great lads, good fun. No issues with their reputation at all. They were great
yeah,
fellas. We had a Guinness with them and a chat and whatever. Wish them well, but not for the game. They obviously nicked the 3 points
yeah.
and probably deserved it on the second half performance. Overall, just a disappointing result for Middlesbrough. We move on with 6 to go. So I've got the away shirt on, which I think we'll probably be wearing tomorrow at Swansea. We may well wear the red shirt, which is wearing a home shirt for the away game. Just all wrong on our superstitions episode that we did a couple of weeks ago. I quite like that shirt, mate. I know you don't like the size of the
Yeah,
sponsor, do you?
yeah. It's the first. Uh, it's the first shirt back with Hummel 18-19 season, which was the reincarnation of the Spirit of '86. Yeah, I do like it. I'm never a fan of any gambling sponsor. They're all over quite a few of my shirts. I do quite like the fact that clubs now give you the option to get shirts without the sponsors on, which I'm a big advocate
Yeah,
of because I can't stand half these sponsors. It's why I don't buy any of the new Borough ones because they've got the massive, great big band with great big like statement on about betting and stuff, which I just can't stand. But it's a nice
yeah,
shirt. I do
yeah,
quite
yeah.
like this one, and yeah, um, also in support of the lads. We did do well on Friday. Just yeah, it's also one of those things of Sod's Law, an old player comes back to haunt you and scores 2 goals, and we should never have sold Josh Coburn. I've you can back me on this. I've said all the way along, we should have kept him. We loaned him out to Bristol Rovers for a season and a half. He progressed as a player, really toughened up and improved, and then we go and sell him. It's like,
Well,
why?
yeah,
He's exactly what we need, and he's doing well for them. So I
yeah.
was. I didn't resent him celebrating against us. I think it was almost kind of a mini protest by him to say, "Look what you missed out on," and rightly
I
so.
agree. I
Yeah,
agree. Well,
yeah.
let's move on for that. Let's move on to Club v Country. We've got a lot to talk about, but
Mm.
what sparked this for me? It's just this has pissed me off. Like you wouldn't believe. It doesn't take a lot, does it?
No,
I am,
no,
I am one of life's easily pissed off
yeah,
people, but
yeah,
but in a football sense, I am right.
yeah,
Mikel Arteta has said that the club have got very good relations with most national teams, despite 11 of the Gunners' players withdrawing from international duty during the most recent window, i.e., the last 2 weeks. Across the 20 Premier League sides, 228 players were called up by their respective countries last month for World Cup qualifiers and friendlies. 33 of those 228 dropped out, and almost half of them were Arsenal players. Now, following the Carabao Cup final defeat to Manchester City early this month, William Saliba confirmed he would not be joining up with France because of an ankle injury. Centre-back partner Gabriel then withdrew from the Brazil squad with a knee problem. Eberechi Eze, calf. Norway midfielder Martin Odegaard, knee. Netherlands midfielder Jurien Timber, groin. All missed the cup final defeat at Wembley through injury, as well as the Belgian forward Leandro Trossard with a hip injury. After players joined up with their respective countries, 5 more Arsenal players withdrew. England trio Declan Rice with a knock, Bukayo Saka with a knock, and Noni Madueke injured his knee against Uruguay. And as well as Spain's Martin Zubamendi with a knee and Ecuador's Pierre Inchcape with undisclosed injury, right? Arteta said his players were desperate to play for their countries. Now, first of all, I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Absolute bullshit on that, because those numbers are not coincidental. And the amount of idiot people who posted on social media when these injuries, inverted commas, came out. Oh my God, Arsenal have got an injury crisis. They're coming into the running of the season. Oh my God, Arsenal without all these key players. I'll tell you now, right? Gabriel started last night against Southampton. Odegaard started last night against Southampton. Saliba came on. Zubamendi came on. Madueke came on. Doesn't sound like an injury crisis to me. Sounds like bullshit. What do you reckon?
Oh, completely. Yeah. It's Arteta to a T, isn't it? To be honest,
Yeah,
I mean, I've said before, ex-Everton legend. He was a great player for us, but he can be so fucking irritating in terms of, how he approaches things and things that he says. His touchline antics. He should be banged out on the touchline for the prattling about that he does. And this is just another thing that he does. It's all, yeah, I completely agree. It's hard. I can't really see how they could really argue against it because those stats there, they're not coincidental. You don't get coincidences like that. Basically, that is, we don't think you're going to play, a huge part for your country. So let's just withdraw and we'll focus on the game. And against Southampton, they were piss poor, just did the usual knocking it around, boring everyone senseless like they do. And Southampton were fantastic. So it backfired completely, didn't it, really?
just on that point, it was just joyous to watch.
Absolutely.
After cheating the system, as I would call it, to try and make these players allegedly, they must have had a miraculous recovery in their recovery room, by the way, to make the game. I mean, I'm so pleased for them because they're so clearly badly injured.
Yeah.
These miracles occur, and they get turned over by a championship team, Southampton, who, by the way, are in tremendous form at the moment, by the way, and
Yeah.
turned over deservedly. I haven't seen an interview with Arteta after the game, but I will look for one because I just want to see his miserable little face when he sees his season crumbling. They got beat by City quite comfortably in the Carabao Cup, and now they've lost to Southampton. I am going to watch and support Sporting on Tuesday. Sporting are playing them in the Champions League on Tuesday night, right? And I guarantee that those who were also missing, I guarantee that Declan Rice will be fit and Bukayo Saka, their knocks will suddenly miraculously be being cured because
Yeah.
it's the Champions League. If that had been a league match last night, a big game against a City or somebody like that, all of those players would have been playing last night. But he's rested some of them. He would have rested them anyway for
Yeah.
an FA Cup. So
Yeah.
he's got what he deserved last night. And I hope Sporting, who, by the way, have won 5 and drawn one of their last 6 games in all competitions, in good form, and it's at Sporting. I hope Sporting absolutely turn them over on Tuesday night because I just can't stand the holier than now bullshit. We've got good relations. These players are desperate to play for their country, but we'll withdraw them and they happily withdraw. I've got a list of players here. I was going to do it at the end. I put in, I can't imagine any of the following not wanting to play for England, right? And this is going back historically. Shearer, Lineker, they're not in particular order. Shearer, Lineker, Gaza, Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton, Terry Butcher, Kevin Keegan, Gordon Banks, Tony Adams, Paul Ince even. None of them would have been wanting to be withdrawn by their club, would they? They want to put the England shirt on and
Yeah.
represent their country. And I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's because internationally these players play so many shit non-games like friendlies and Nations League shit that no one cares about, that it's like, you know what? I'd rather have a rest than pull the shirt on, but it just seems wrong to me. I know the clubs pay the wages and all that kind of lark, but surely it's the pinnacle of your sporting career to represent your country, isn't it?
Yeah,
Irrespective of who you're playing.
yeah, it is. I think I'm probably going to sound a bit derogatory and contradictory here. It. You can see for some players, but it must be always a huge pride to be selected for your country. You know, we talked last week about James Garner of Everton getting his Everton caps and his two England caps, and he also played superbly, by the way, in both games and really stood out and really put himself there to, become a mainstay, which he should based on his form. And you can see the immense pride he had. But I do think some of it has been diluted a little bit by how the modern game's developed. So, we now have endless games of football in all the leagues. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. You're now cramming loads of international matches in that we don't need, friendlies that are just beyond boring. I mean, really, what did we achieve apart from blooding some new players, which is probably what it's all about? What did we really achieve in those friendlies? Not a lot, although the crowds sold out Wembley, by the way. So I don't know
Yeah.
what they were pricing the tickets at, but they were well received in terms of fans turning up, but they didn't really get to watch much of a spectacle. But maybe it's to do with there are too many games in terms of club and quite a lot of friendlies now in terms of internationals and the squads. I mean, they're picking like 1,000-man squads now, aren't they? So it's like they pick like 35 players and then a few fall away and stuff like that. So maybe Arteta and Arsenal's argument will be, well, are these players really going to be used that much? Is it really integral that they're there? But I kind of always think, yes, you should, because surely it's about, if you're picked, the manager wants to see you play, wants to see you involved, and surely it's about the long game, which is hopefully being picked to go to the World Cup.
But
So
the
surely you'd want
manager,
that as a
but the manager also wants to see how you are as part of a group, doesn't he? He wants to see how you
yeah,
interact with the other squad
different
members and
players as well. Yeah,
different players, all that kind of thing. And for me, the likes of Arteta and the likes of Pep and people like that moan, don't there's too many games, and yet they're very, very happy at the end of July to send their teams across the world to play, Kuwait FC and bloody, I don't know, Indonesia United or whatever it might be, just to make money and start the season 3 weeks early by playing friendlies in all sorts of bloody climates and time zones. So when they get to the end of the season, when they get to the last international break, it's not unusual that they would genuinely be knackered, but they're not injured. They're just knackered and they're probably just, oh, I can't be bothered. If you can't be bothered to play for your country, you're a bloody disgrace. So on the subject of disgraces, by the way, how is Ben White getting anywhere near the England squad? He said categorically 2, 3 years ago, I don't want to play for England again. I mean, he didn't want to play for England under Southgate because he didn't like Southgate. You've said you don't want to play for England again, Ben White. Well, for me, you can just fuck right off because you shouldn't ever be playing for England ever again. I don't care who's in charge. I don't care what form you're in. You're not even in that good form anyway. But I don't care how good you think you are. I don't care what gap we've got where you could fill that gap. You said 2, 3 seasons ago, I don't want to play for England ever again. It's not a choice, pal. It's an honour, and it should be a request for you to play, and you should accept that request. I can't believe he got picked by Thomas Tuchel, who's misread the room by a million miles, in my view.
yeah, and it's puzzling because it's at the expense of Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, and he hasn't played for a while, and I'd want to be seeing him in an England shirt and seeing how he's turning up and playing for England, because it is a different dynamic playing in Spain. See, it's almost like a recheck of bringing your players together and seeing how they are together and seeing what his form is in an England shirt. Um, and he's one of our best players. If we ever want to win the World Cup, he has to be in the team. So, and
yeah.
he'd get in the team every day of the week in terms ahead of Ben White. I've got nothing against Ben White, by the way, but I do agree. I do find it a double standard. If you don't want to play, and that's your statement. If he's changed his mind, then I would just say, well, be careful what you say in the first place. But he doesn't really come across as and I don't know if this is right. Arsenal fans, correct me if I'm wrong. he very much to me comes across as someone who plays football because it's a job, not because he
Yeah.
loves football. Nothing wrong with that if you're fully committed and you're doing everything you need to do for your club and your country. I do find that a bit perplexing though, because for me, football is one of those things where surely you love it, but then as fans, that's how we're always going to feel. But I'm a little bit concerned. I sometimes find his attitude a little bit casual, a bit blasé. I don't really think he's a big game player.
No.
I've never
He's
felt.
also
I've never felt he's a big game player.
he's also famously said he doesn't actually he doesn't like football. He doesn't watch football.
So
He
I'm right.
doesn't watch.
I'm right. That has come from somewhere. Then, yeah, because yeah. Um, so yeah, I do find it a little bit perplexing, and yeah, I also think at this present time where we are, given that the World Cup is right on our doorstep, it really is about trying to get your squad in a good shape where you feel like it's ready, and we
Yeah.
don't really seem like we're there at all.
No.
We seem very disjointed players that seem. Oh, we talked about Cole Palmer. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Cole Palmer, whether he's carrying a knock still and he's still not. He just doesn't look like the Cole Palmer that we all love watching play football. He seems,
No.
we really don't know what's going on there, and I hope the lad sorts it out because he's a real talent that I like. But he seemed
But
on
what I
in
would
every
say, what I
day.
would say about Cole Palmer though, mate, is he strikes me as the kind of kid, and I call him a kid because he's only a young lad still.
Yeah,
Everyone's a kid.
yeah.
Everyone's a kid when my age, but he's a young lad who, if he gets called up for England, he's going to go through hell or high water to get
Oh,
in
he'll
that
go. Yeah,
England
he'll
squad,
go.
England
Yeah,
team. He's not looking to say, well, I'm carrying a bit of a knock. I've got a bit of a bruise or whatever it might be. It's just wrong. And going back to the squad harmony bit with the Ben White scenario, because Ben White did take Trent's place, you're not telling me that Trent and Jude Bellingham are not good mates now. They're both based
yeah,
in Madrid, and Jude Bellingham's in the squad. Jude Bellingham's a strong character. He's a bit of a mouthy bastard, to be fair, and he'll have an opinion, won't he,
mm,
on well, hang on, Ben White, you didn't want to play for England. Now you're here. Oh, and you're here, and my mate isn't here. It's not going to be good for squad harmony anyway, is it? That, but we're going off the subject a little bit in terms
yeah,
of
yeah.
club v country. I got here a suggestion I heard the other day, and I heard this from someone who you and I know I've got no appreciation of whatsoever. Gabby Agbonlahor, right?
Yeah.
He had an idea. Gabby Agbonlahor had an
Wow.
idea, right? Well, I know, like we'll write that one down in the diary, and it wasn't the worst idea I ever heard. And he said, if you withdraw from your international squad, either before or during the international break, as a result of an injury, you should miss the next game for your club and you should not be allowed to play. That would stop that immediately.
Yeah, it would.
Gabby Agbonlahor, good idea. I
Good
never thought I'd ever
idea.
say that.
Yeah. Yeah, Gabby, I'd recommend that you have more good ideas rather than talking some of the utter shit that you normally talk about. But that is a really good idea. I mean, it's sometimes it is the simplest ideas that work because it is just that deterrent, isn't it? It's like we do essentially what me and you are surmising that Arsenal have done that because they wanted their players available and ready to play in this FA Cup
Well, actually, no, I think they want it
or for the
ready to play in
Champions
the
League,
Champions League on Tuesday more so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or more so, yeah.
Yeah.
And that just eliminates that because straight away they can't play. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I agree with it. There's got to be something because yeah, it just feels all wrong. Or we've got a great relationship. They're happy to let these players go. Well, if you basically told the players they can't go,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. It feels like we want you here, we need you here. So actually, it's just a friendly suck it
Don't
up, get
go.
on with it, don't go. But do you know what? We might be way off the mark, but it doesn't feel that way because it's the stats don't really.
Listen,
It
mate.
can't be, can it? It can't be.
We're not way off because when it was posted the other day, and someone genuinely posted, "Oh my God, Arsenal have got an injury
Yeah,
crisis," and I posted underneath it, I went, "They'll all be back for the FA Cup or the Champions League." The FA Cup, not so much because they would have picked a reduced sort of first team
gonna try
anyway
to get
for
yes,
that.
they would. Yeah,
I guarantee that Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, what their knocks will mysteriously have been, manipulated and massaged out of them, and they'll be playing on
yeah,
Tuesday night. And you know
yeah.
what? Come on,
And,
Sporting,
and and
turn them
that's
up.
why, and that's why I agree with you that when you look at those numbers, it's not coincidental, and also it is purely a case of we want our best players there because we want to win, and they are. They're literally terrified of bottling this one, and
Yeah,
you know, I'm not. It feels like it's a vendetta against Arsenal. It's not, but I don't see them winning the Champions League at all.
no,
I just
no.
don't see it. I don't see them winning it. So that'll be another competition gone, and then it really is all focused on if they blow this league position now. Oh my God, it'll just be. I'm not. I mean, could they really?
Hey, I'll be honest with you though. Teams have Man United did famously when City won it at the Aguero moment.
Yeah, yeah,
Man United had a similar lead, didn't they? And
yeah,
and choked a little bit. Well, more than a little bit. And actually, Man United didn't win the didn't Man City won the league, but actually Man United lost the league that year.
yeah.
Same
It
thing, you
is.
know.
It
And
is.
I have no love for Man City. You and I know, you and I on this pod, we've said many times, the bore the living daylights out of us. But just for shits and giggles, I would love it because of what Arsenal have just done. It's really annoyed me, this 11 withdrawals over the international break bullshit, right? I would love them to not win the Champions League and to blow the Premier League and just watch Arteta's face on the last game of the season. I don't know who they play last game of the season. You know, when the sneaker draw when they need a win or something like that, I would just love it. I don't really want City to win the league. It's the same and same and same again. But
No, he
you know,
does.
just for the fact it's not Arsenal would be brilliant because they deserve it for this bullshit they've just pulled over the last 2 weeks. Anyway, moving on from that, there's a lot more at stake on club versus country than just Arsenal's withdrawals. It's it goes deeper than that. I will finish the Arsenal bit with a question for Arsenal fans, English Arsenal fans. Would you rather Arsenal win the league for the first time in 20 odd years, or the Champions League for the first time ever, or England win the World Cup? Now, there's your club versus country right there in that question. Would Arsenal, English Arsenal fans, rather win the Premier League or the Champions League or both than England win the World Cup? Now, I don't know. I'll make up a stat. I reckon it's probably less than 50-50. I reckon most English Arsenal fans would still rather Arsenal win something than England win the World Cup. I think that might be how it the dice would roll. What do you reckon, Dom?
I would agree. I think I'd probably put myself in there as well. I'd love to watch my club win something huge. I hate saying it, but club football is my bread and butter. It's what I go to every week. It's what I put my time. It's what I sacrifice things for. It's what I plan my diary around. Watching England win the World Cup would be amazing. It would be. It would be brilliant. But I think I would. I think if you're asking me hand on heart, I think I'd go club as well. I would.
Yeah.
I would just because of the amount of time I spend on club football and um, how I'm invested in it. So yeah, I would. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Also, I just think with me as well. I think I was much more country, or not more than my. I think I was definitely equal in terms of club support, country support when I was younger.
Yeah.
I loved watching England when I was younger. I used to make the time to watch the England games, and I think it's
Yeah.
because they felt more important. There was less of this, you know, Nations League stuff,
Fillers.
filler games. Less massive squads where literally they were playing 40 odd players. And that World Cup, the World Cup in '86 and '90, really sealed it for me in terms of how much I loved watching my country play. And Euro '96 was pretty special, but since then it has slowly faded and slowly become just less important. When the World Cup comes round, I probably will be watching them as much as I don't really want to because I just object abhorrently to everything that's happened with this World Cup in terms of everything around it. But I will be watching the games probably, and I will want them to do well. Um, but yeah, my answer it would be I would have to go club, and I think most Arsenal fans would. I'm more interested. Would they go Champions League or League? I think I would personally always go League.
I would.
I'm a big one. I'm like Brian Clough on that. Back in the old days, I know football's changed a bit, but you've properly earned your stripes winning the league. You've been the best team over a whole season,
Yeah.
and bearing out how much the Champions League's been diluted, it's not really champions. I mean, the fact that Arsenal have never won it, but they're in the Champions League, that tells you everything you need to know about the
Yeah.
Champions League. So yeah, I and again something else with football. it's been contrived and directed that the Champions League is the most important thing on the planet, when really it's not. The only reason why it's important to clubs is because of the coin that they get,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
because of
yeah.
not because it's prestigious. It's because of the money they earn,
Mm.
and it generates players being able to want to come and play for them the following season. That's all it's about, really. So I would always take league over Champions League.
I'll tell you what, you made a very interesting point there. By the way, you talk about money and stuff. Some individual players be more interested in winning the bloody Ballon d'Or than winning something for their team as well, wouldn't they? But that's a completely separate issue.
Yes, yeah,
Who
yeah.
who gives a shit about the Ballon d'Or? Nobody. I can't name anyone apart from Messi and
Well,
Ronaldo.
no credible players. And again, we were talking off air about a friend of ours, Scott Michaels. Scott, hi mate, hope you're listening. Love your work. Scott put a great post on his Substack the other day talking about Scott McTominay and everything what he is as a player, what he's
Yeah,
brought to Napoli,
I saw
and
that. Brilliant.
and and he even quoted and said, Diego Maradona's son said, if Maradona was God, McTominay is Jesus. That's what they think of him over there. That's how he's transformed Napoli. Is he in the conversation for a Ballon d'Or? No.
No.
Should he? Absolutely.
Yeah.
This the modern day Ballon d'Or seems to follow like just modern day football. It's just your usual suspects all the time. It's almost on like this usual tick list of a committee.
Who's got the biggest Instagram account? Who's got the
Yeah,
biggest profile?
yeah.
Who's got the big yeah, all that shit. Anyway,
Whereas,
we got up.
yeah, but we're
Yeah,
going off tangent. But then, that's the beauty of our podcast. We are allowed to go slightly off.
we are. We are.
It was an interesting thing. Just what you meant, because you mentioned the Ballon d'Or. I thought it just
Yeah.
resonated with something Scott had said, and I thought I really agree with that, because these are the kind of players that probably should get recognition and don't.
Well, anyone who's transforming a club is by very nature inspirational, aren't they? So,
Absolutely,
and that
yeah,
surely that's what that's about. The point you made earlier though was about club versus country for you and England when you were younger. I
yeah,
don't think it was because you were younger. I just think because it was generationally, it was very different, wasn't it? So
yeah,
I've watched England since 1970. We didn't qualify in 78, 74, and 78. 82, yeah, I loved the World Cup in 82, but
oh,
England just left me
yeah,
cold in there.
yeah,
86, we were dog meat until we got through the qualifiers, eventually by beating Poland, and
yeah.
then the infamous Maradona goal. But Italia 90, we all look at it with rose tinted glasses. It was a pretty shit tournament, low scoring. The tournament itself wasn't great, but we had Schillaci for Italy scoring goals for fun, and we had England and Gaza and all that. And then everyone grew back into love with the English football,
Mm,
didn't they? The England football team, 90. We did nothing in the Euros in 92.
92.
Was that
Didn't.
the famous 92 turnip head one? That was 92, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
But Euro 96 on home soil, everyone fell in love with English football. And I agree with you, mate. Over a period of time, and is it my age? Is it just cynically just like not again? They're going to let us down again? Is it the size of the squads? Is it the non-memorability of playing San Marino three times in a qualifying bloody
yeah.
series or whatever? All that stuff has diluted my love for England. I don't even watch qualifying games now.
I
I'll
don't.
I'll watch a tournament and I'll watch that reluctantly thinking, I wonder how shit we're going to be. Or I wonder how much we're going to be like boring and whatever. So I don't even watch it with any love that I used to. So club v country, this might be disgraceful to anyone listening, by the way. Middlesbrough have dropped out of the control of this automatic place in the championship right now, just because of what happened on Friday. Still 6 games to go. If we fall into the playoffs and we could win the playoff final at Wembley and win our first ever Wembley final, I think I'd be happy with that than watching England win the World Cup in the summer. Borderline, I think. Borderline. But I've invested a shitload of money, time, and effort, and so has my lad Rob, and so have my friends who follow Borough like you. And you think to yourself, a day in the sun at Wembley in the playoffs to get qualified to go to the Premier League and win a final at Wembley. That's
I'd take that. I'd take that all day long. It's club. I do take club over country. I'm
yeah,
more invested in my club because it's a daily, weekly thing.
yeah,
So and like people who listen to this pod know, I have two clubs, so it's
yeah,
my immersion in football and how I plan my diary and things that I make time for and how I sacrifice things to get to those games. And I
yeah.
wish I could get to more Middlesbrough games, but sadly I can't. I do my best to get to as many as I can. I would take club over country every time. I'm only ever invested, and whether this sounds wrong or whether other people this resonates, but I'm only invested in England when it comes to the tournaments because there's skin in every game.
Yeah,
It's like the Champions League. I'm not remotely interested. Only in the Europa League. I'm not remotely interested in the group stages. I couldn't give a
yeah,
shit. It's
yeah.
boring. It's just boring. It's just like just drag it out. Let's put
You know
more.
who's gonna qualify, don't
Yeah,
you? Ultimately,
it doesn't become interesting until you've got a situation where it's like, right, I'm going to watch this game. At the end of this game, someone gets knocked out, and
yeah,
that's what the European Cup used to. And I know where people say, "Oh, you're old fuddy duddies." But do you know what? That's pure football right
yeah.
there.
It is.
The European Cup competitions used to be brilliant because they were pure knockouts, and
Yeah,
everyone watched them. You watched the European Cup, you watched the Cup Winners' Cup, and you watched the UEFA Cup, and they
yeah.
all had the same magic because they were all knockout.
They all had
So
jeopardy.
yeah, and that's pure. It's I am deep down. I've thought with we've done a lot of pods, mate, on lots of different things, and whether the playoffs are right, the size of the playoff group, all of those things. And I'm not advocating them, and we've got used to some of them. But if you could take me back to when I was a kid, I and just for pure sporting integrity and I mean, look, like we've always said, look at the championship. It's a brutal season, but right at the end of it, from next season onwards, eighth could basically go up. What's the point of the season you've just had? So I'm the same in terms of all the other competitions, club and country. I just think it's more about pure sporting integrity and jeopardy. That's what sport is, and
Yeah,
I think a lot of people don't not like their country, but I think they really come alive in the tournaments because it's like right these games, and even though you've got like a mini league at the start in the group, it means something because the games are short and they're fast, they're quick. The groups end quickly. You've got to win probably two of them, so
yeah,
you're invested straight away because there's something on the line. And I
yeah.
think that's why most fans get involved then and take an interest. Because apart from that, it is just a bit. It's just a bit
Yeah.
too much, isn't it? It's overkill.
It's a
It's like
bit,
everything
it's a bit,
else.
it's a bit meh, innit? Right, we've been a bit hypocritical, right? Because we just
Okay.
slagged our, well, we have, which is good. That's fine. We've slagged
Yeah.
Arsenal players off for not wanting to play for the country, and yet we both said that we take our club over country. But we're not players, are we? If
Great.
somebody said to me, "You can play for your
Oh
country,"
no, totally
that's a
different.
completely
Oh,
different
completely different
viewpoint, right?
conversation. Yeah,
So I'm defending our hypocrisy
yeah.
before someone writes a note and says,
Yeah.
"Well, you said it's all about Arsenal this and Arsenal that, and
Your
you both
opinion as
want your
yeah,
clubs."
as a fan, it's always going to be different than being a player. But
Yeah,
these players could easily turn around and say, "This was done because my club won. It was the request of my club." Could those would those players have the power to turn around and say, "No, I want to play for my country"? They probably could.
yeah.
I don't know how it works, mate. To be honest.
No. Okay. Well, it goes deeper than Arsenal. It goes deeper than the sort
Yeah, it
of,
does.
our love for a trophy win or a big day out at Wembley or whatever it might be, right? I'll just give you an example of going deeper. So at the weekend on Good Friday, Middlesbrough played Millwall. It was a great advert for Championship football, by the way. It was,
It was.
if you want to watch proper football, none of this tippy tappy shit that bloody Premier League teams played. None of this. They were still passing out from the back and all that kind of. Middlesbrough in the first half were sensational, but we only went in 1-0 up. And actually, from a football purist point of view, Millwall in the second half were brilliant because they gradually grew into it. They controlled, and I'll tell you why, right? Borough had five starters in that Millwall game who'd all been away and significantly played over the international break. So we had Riley McGree who'd been in Australia, Morris had been in the US,
America. Yeah.
Strelec had played two games over the international break. He scored twice as well, so you look at it and go, Strelec couldn't buy a goal for Middlesbrough at the moment, but he scored twice for his country. So is the international break a good thing? He comes back with a bit of a spring in his step, and I
Yeah.
thought it wasn't a coincidence. Up until about 70 minutes, I thought Strelec had his best game in a Borough shirt on Friday. He was
Yeah.
holding the ball up, he was getting involved, he was looking to get on the end of things. So his confidence was up as a result of that. We had Brown, who'd been away with Northern Ireland, he missed a penalty. And we had one more. We had five starters in the Millwall game. Millwall had no starters who'd been away for international duty. So
Yeah.
not only have we lost those five players for tactical analysis over the 2 weeks, not only did we have two players who travelled the other side of the world in terms of US, but certainly McGree from Australia. They didn't get back till early hours of Thursday morning, and yet Sky decided we'll have that game at 12:30 on Good Friday.
Yeah.
But you know what? Coventry played at eight o'clock on Friday night. Couldn't have given us the 8 o'clock to get him. No, they couldn't really. And I'm not making excuses, by the way. We did look tired in the second half, but I'm not saying that's the reason we lost.
No, it's not. But we
It's
did.
an unfair. It's an unfair comparison of,
Yeah,
it does go deeper than that. But yeah, every single one of these players, I guarantee, Aidan Morris wants to play for America because he wants to be in the World Cup
he
squad. And
does.
apparently he played quite well. Riley McGree is not a guaranteed starter for Australia, but he's a really good footballer. Now, Riley McGree's frustrated me over the years because he's had a lot of injuries for Middlesbrough. He's been out, he's been out. And then an international break suddenly arrives and he's fit and available to travel around the world and go play for Australia. He comes back with a knock and we miss him again. So he's had a bit of a checkered history with me in terms of his international, but you can't question his desire to play for his country. Probably over his desire to play for his club at some point in that respect. So I just think the international break and club v country, I don't mind that we had five players who went away because that's a reflection on Middlesbrough as a club in the Championship. We had
Yeah,
five players who went and played for their countries. That says that we're a decent, we're recruiting well, we're developing well, and that's okay. It's slightly unfair when the fixture list comes out that nobody even looks at that and goes, right, we'll go 12:30 on Good Friday. But I think every single one of those players who plays for Middlesbrough all wanted to go and play. Alan Brown wanted to go and play for
yeah, they
Northern
did.
Ireland because there was a chance they could have got through to the World Cup. And why wouldn't he want to go and play for them? So I don't know what your view is on lower down the pyramid, the Championship. Some clubs have got five, six players, some have got none. Is that fair? Is it just as it is? It's just what
Think
happens?
it. I think that last statement. I think it is just as it is. I think the only caveat to that is, and you could question this about other, you know, the changing of fixtures and the timings and things. Maybe we did suffer a little bit from the fact that Millwall had no players on international duty, so they were. You could argue they might have been fresher. But then, sometimes I do look at things and think it's an easy. And I know we're not making excuses because we're not. They were the better team second half. They won fair and square.
Yeah, yeah,
And when I looked at Aidan Morris round the pitch, he didn't look like he was knackered or off the pace. Um, for me, I've said to you off air in a private conversation, I think he just missed more the fact that he wasn't playing with Hayden Hackney because those two just have that better relationship.
yeah,
But I suppose what we maybe don't see is maybe the pressure it takes for these players to be back on time, to get back into the conditioning of being ready for a game. Is there a difference of kicking off at 12:30 as opposed to 8 p.m.? Would that give these players extra rest time? Does it make a difference? Or, on game day, is there a significant difference between 12:30 and 8 o'clock in terms of your mentality or your fitness or your freshness? I don't know.
no,
I mean, I think this might sound a bit lazy, a bit slapdash, but I do think there's a little bit in it. It has struck me, and this is slightly off tangent a little bit, but it has struck me a little bit that Borough's fixture changes have played into the hands a little bit of those around them because Coventry seem to have got a much fairer deal in terms of fixture changes than Middlesbrough have.
yeah,
We've had quite a lot of Sundays, Mondays, late kickoffs, especially for ones where we've had to travel a long way.
yeah,
And you know what? That can have an impact on maybe his performances. It can be that might factor into small things of how your performance has gone and little things like that. I don't know, but yeah, I think in terms of your bigger question, I think it is just what it is. I think you, as a club, as a club, if you've got good international talent, it shows that you're recruiting well and that these players are doing really well. Aidan
yeah,
Morris he's gold. I want to see him do well for the USA. I hope he's in the team, and I'll be certainly looking out to watch him in the USA. And to be honest, it's little things like that that I'll enjoy about the World Cup.
yeah, me too.
Not so much watching my own country, but watching players I like for other countries and seeing how they do for their countries. He's a great player. He's got a really great attitude, and I hope he's in the team and doing well for them. So,
Yeah,
but
fair
Ryan
point.
McGree, what on ask that is all the way to Australia and back. That's brutal. That is
Well,
brutal.
Speaking of
He looked
someone,
tired, by the way. He did look absolutely knackered, and I
he
think
did.
that was one that maybe should have been swapped out earlier. He looked exhausted.
Yeah, it looked like he was carrying a fridge in the second half, didn't he?
Yeah,
He
he
was
did.
absolutely
Yeah,
knackered. But
yeah,
what I would say as well, by the way, is someone who's been to, I flew on Easter Sunday. I flew to Shanghai, and I was back in the UK on the Wednesday of the same week. Right, I went for 2 days to Shanghai and back. Right, I didn't know what day it was for about 3 days when I got back, and I wasn't playing football at the other end either. By the way,
exactly.
having said that, Riley McGree's not travelling, standard class
No,
Ryanair.
they're
I
probably on
wasn't
a
flying
nice jet,
Ryanair. He's
aren't
on a
they?
nice jet
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
masser doing his legs and all that. But so yeah, but it's still it's very tiring, and the time zone difference and all that kind of thing. So
yeah.
the Club V country has a lot of issues with it, right? I
I
want
like the
to.
Strelak one though, mate. I think that's a good shout because that is a really good point to make. International breaks can sometimes trigger a bit of confidence and form in a player. That player could come back from international duty absolutely firing and feeling like $1 million just to be able to just do something. And Strelak there's a player there, and I agree. That was one of his best games for Bury. He always looked a threat, like he could, score as a goal, and it's coming. And you know, I would just say we just need to have some faith and some time. But it was exciting watching him because he did look like he really benefited from that international break. So there is pluses, like you say. You never know where it could work in
Yeah.
your favour. So it's
Well,
a good point made there.
Tommy Conway got a start for Scotland. That was the other one who was missing the five of them. Tommy Conway got a start for Scotland, and obviously
Yeah,
Scotland have qualified for the World Cup. Tommy Conway is not a goal scorer, right? We know he isn't. He's much more than that. His energy, his press, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how well he played or otherwise for Scotland, but he must be thinking, oh, I've been picked for me international side, even though he's from Bristol. He speaks with a Bristolian accent. He's never probably been to Scotland. Um, he might get into the World Cup. So he came back with a spring in his step as well, didn't he, Tommy Conway? And
yeah,
like, well, he's always got a spring in his step, to be
yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
So
he's a
yeah,
good lad. I
there is an upside to Club V country, isn't there?
yeah,
And sending these players away. I've got a couple of things that something came out this week, right? And this is a really interesting one for me. Michael O'Neill, obviously dual role manager of Northern Ireland and Blackburn. So
yeah.
Northern Ireland had a massive game on Friday. You know, the qualifier against, was they playing Italy? They played Italy, didn't they, Northern Ireland?
Hmm.
If they'd won that, they were through to a final
Yeah,
playoff, and it would have turned out to have been against Bosnia rather than Wales, right? So he's got a massive game on Friday. He's also managed Blackburn, who were in a big, massive relegation struggle at the bottom of the championship, and his direct rivals, Oxford and Pompey. He had players in the Northern Ireland squad. He had three from Oxford, two from Pompey, and one from Blackburn. As far as I know, the numbers are about accurate, there or
yeah.
thereabouts. When they lost to Italy on Thursday or Friday, pardon me, he had a hastily arranged friendly fixture against Wales. I mean, I don't know how that works. That must have been a backdrop. You know, what if we both lose? We'll play each other. I don't know how that came about, but
Yeah,
they played Wales in an absolutely meaningless friendly on Tuesday. Like it had nothing on it whatsoever.
yeah,
Two teams have been knocked out at the final eliminator hurdle for the World Cup. They couldn't have cared less, either of them, right? But Michael O'Neill is manager of Blackburn, and he played the Oxford and the Pompey players much more and longer than anyone for Blackburn. And the argument is he right to do that? Is he doing right by Northern Ireland, or is he doing right by Blackburn? And the conspiracy theorists have said it's funny how Blackburn won this weekend and Oxford and Pompey both drew. Great result for Pompey, by the way. Away at
yeah.
Norwich, nobody saw that coming. And Oxford were unlucky, apparently, when they were at home. I can't remember, they were playing at home yesterday. But nonetheless, did he flog the Oxford and Pompey players
Oh,
more than he played the Blackburn players? And if so, is that right? I mean,
mate,
what do you reckon?
that's I didn't know that. So that's a really interesting one, and it just shows the influence you can have when you've got dual roles, doesn't it? And it is. Is it conflict of interest? I do think it is.
It is.
Well, I don't think it is. It just is. And again, you could be guilty of reading too much into it, but as a club, as Oxford and Pompey, you would be you will be all over that, thinking if those
They are.
players get injured in a meaningless friendly and you've played them the majority of the game and the Blackburn players haven't, you would be mightily annoyed, wouldn't you? Because you'd be thinking, hang on,
Yeah.
there's a bit like what you said about the Arsenal stats. It's like it's hard to argue with that, isn't it? Really, but he'll just come out and say, "Well, if I didn't play them, we haven't got a team," and he might be right, he might be, but I mean,
If you,
I didn't even know they had a friendly. I mean, how pointless is that? The fact that nobody even knows because nobody cares. I mean,
but a friendly still takes 90 minutes of play
90
on a
minutes and it's
pitch.
effort. It's a lot of grind. I mean, it's a lot out on the players as well. And yeah, I mean,
Who are already depressed at the fact that they've lost the World Cup opportunity. You know,
yeah,
there's probably just like really just can we go home now? At the end of like
yeah,
Friday when they lost to Italy, they should have just said our international break is one game. Win it, it's two games. We lose it, we just go home. Why on earth would they want to play Wales? And why would Wales want to play them after Wales had lost on penalties to Bosnia and Herzegovina? And you look at it, Michael O'Neill. If you're a conspiracy theorist, it's a great story. I've
I was
heard,
just to say, if you're into conspiracies, it's a brilliant one, isn't it?
yeah,
I'm a big believer in conspiracies. That sometimes it is just what it is. So you take
yeah,
out the conspiracy, he'll just come out and say it was just a game. I played my best
yeah.
players. I wasn't thinking about club. This is how it turned out. But it's hard. Would if you pressed him, would you not have thought about it? He must sometimes. It's somewhere in his head have his club hat on a little bit. A little bit got to
Yeah,
be there. It has to be. Do you know what?
tiny hat, tiny hat.
Tiny hat. Do you know what? It might not have been. He might have been literally. I'm not even thinking about it. But let's
That's
just
made
put
you
it.
smile. That's made you smile. That
It
hasn't it?
has. Do you know what? As a conspiracy story, that is a fabulous one. Yeah, that has made me smile. Yeah, I like that
Okay,
a lot.
okay.
Didn't know that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that at all. That he had so many players from Pompey and Oxford in his squad. That's fabulous.
Here's the thing, though. That's why one of us does research for this podcast.
Well, yes, you do more than me. You
I'm
do
only
more than me.
joking. I'm joking, mate. I'm joking. Right. I want to
No, I'm
finish.
not. You do more than me. So
That's
yeah.
okay. Don't really matter. I want to finish with Wales, right? Couple of things with Wales. Ryan Giggs, Club v Country. He was the epitome of like late withdrawals, wasn't he?
Oh,
Ryan Giggs was on
yeah.
a piece of elastic from Alex Ferguson's office to the Welsh squad. He would go, "Oh, I've been picked for Wales for the international break. We've got a friendly against fucking Azerbaijan or somebody, and we've got a friendly against Kazakhstan." Hang on. Oh, I've got a twinge there. I can't go. Alex Ferguson pulling back on his elastic.
Yeah.
He never played, did he, in friendlies
Never.
or meaningless
Never.
games or whatever. And yet he was their best player for a generation, wasn't he? Before Bale came
Oh
along, and
yeah. Yeah.
Ryan Giggs and Wales. But you just look at it and go, he got away with that because he could, because he was Ryan Giggs. Now, if he was Hal Robson Carno, and I'm not being knocking Hal Robson Carno, who's a great, he's a great custodian of the Welsh kind of flag, and he had a great tournament in 16, didn't he, and all that kind of thing. If you somebody like a Hal Robson Carno, or not necessarily one of their more glamorous players, you don't get that luxury, do you? But because you are Ryan Giggs, you just can take the piss, can't you? And he did that for an entire generation of football. Because, oh,
Yeah.
Wales. I'm very Welsh. I'm very proud of being Welsh, although he's English. Um, yeah, I don't want to play. I'm injured. He had more mysterious injuries the weekend before international break than soft Mick, didn't he?
He did, and I, I think he got away with it for the, the bulk of the time he played. Wales weren't really doing great things, were they?
Yeah, they weren't
Um,
qualifying, were they?
but it's interesting because I don't think he, and a lot of that will have been Alex Ferguson protecting him, and he was one of his key players, so he was clearly invested in making sure he wasn't playing.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't think you never got it from Mark Hughes, did you? So whether Mark Hughes just told Fergie to kind of do one, I mean, it was a slightly
yeah,
different era, but Mark Hughes always turned up for his country, didn't he? Loved
he
playing
did.
for his country, regardless of what was going on. So I was like,
Yeah.
not sure you get Sparky kind of,
Do you think that's because Mark Hughes is Welsh and Ryan Giggs technically isn't Welsh? I
technically
don't
isn't
know.
Welsh. Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Is
don't,
that a thing?
I don't know. Do you know what? I've never really looked into what the connection why he does play for Wales. Is it his granddad or something? I can't remember what it is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe it is. But
And boy, what England could have done with Ryan Giggs in his prime, by the way.
didn't he play for England schools?
Yeah, he
I'm
did.
sure he
Yeah, he
pulled
did.
an England shirt on and then chose Wales. But
Yeah,
he'd have been a starter for England every day of the week.
yeah,
Yeah.
he would. Last thing on Wales, and this is interesting. It's about Leeds United, and it's about Leeds United and Wales. Okay, I've got a few friends who are Leeds fans. We have a bit of banter about when they were in the Championship, blowing it, going up, not winning. Winning the Championship really well, Bielsa years, all that kind of thing. Now, Leeds are a big club, obviously, and they've got a lot of players who play international duty,
Mhm.
even when they're in the Championship. And a couple of years ago, they had 4 or 5 players who started for Wales, and my research isn't that great, right? I think it was the Euros where they missed out on a Euro qualification. It might be in the last World Cup, but it was when Leeds were pushing for promotion, top of the league, Championship, playing out the skin, running away with things. I think it was when there was probably 3 teams vying for the top two. It was the year they missed out on automatic promotion and they lost the final in the playoffs to Southampton. I think that was the year. So that was a couple of years ago. It's probably a Euros
Probably
qualification.
Euros, yeah.
But in that Wales team, in this international break, which at that point was in March, end of March, beginning of April, they had 5 Leeds players, the likes of Ampadu, Daniel James and people like that.
Yeah.
And Wales lost qualification and were gutted at that defeat, right? I think they lost at home in Wales in front of a massive crowd. They were all up for it, and then they just like lost and imploded their kind of their passion really. And I've got a few Leeds fans who'll tell you right now that loss by Wales at the end of March, beginning of April, with 5 Leeds starters in that Welsh team, had a direct correlation on Leeds missing out on promotion because Leeds' form suddenly took a nosedive. They weren't the free-flowing team they were before. Ampadu was less kind of impactful and effective. Daniel James wasn't quite the Daniel James that had been beforehand. Roden was there as well, and he suddenly had a rick in him that he didn't have a rick in him before. So you look at it and go, going away and picking up form and being successful and qualifying. There'll be a lot of Scottish players who come back from Scotland qualifying for the World Cup in the last international break, who've come back with a spring in the step. Conversely, at that particular time, Leeds were adversely affected by 5 Welsh guys having the wind knocked out of their season internationally and then it having an effect on their club form.
Yeah.
What do you reckon to that? Do you reckon that's a real thing? It felt like it was a genuine situation at the time. It felt that was definitely not an excuse either, just a thing,
Yeah.
a factor.
Well, I wouldn't dismiss that. Football fans are really observant. We go week in, week out. You do notice things in the players that you watch. If you're watching closely enough and how those players play, it is a thing. I think you can see a drop off in players, whether it's confidence, energy. So I wouldn't be dismissive of the Leeds fans saying that because it's some might go, oh, what a load of rubbish. They're never going to do that. But fans are observant and they're intuitive, and you do pick up on changes in players'
Mm,
confidence, energy, performance levels for whatever reason that might be. And if
mm.
so, I think that if fans are saying that there could be something in it. I mean, you
That's
could say
that's that's nearly half your starting lineup, by the
half
way,
your
isn't it?
starting. I mean, and you could say, oh, that's disgraceful. And the players that you mentioned, you wouldn't really picture those players doing that because they are proper professionals. All of them,
Yeah, yeah.
they give their all for their club and their country. And playing devil's advocate and being fair to the players, would they have done that deliberately? Absolutely
Oh
not.
no,
You'd
no,
never
no.
get that from Ampadu, Roden, Dan James. And I think it opens the question of, is it more of a psychological thing where those players perhaps don't realise that it's having an effect and they don't
Yeah.
realise that maybe it's impacted the team? But it's a really good question because it's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because that could not that it would, but would the same happen now with Leeds running at the end of the season, Premier League wise? Same
Mm,
players are playing. They all looked absolutely gutted when they lost that game because they were
yeah.
on that Friday, I watched that game in Cardiff, and they were fully in control. If one of those, for example, one of the chances where Harry Wilson or Dan James, where they hit the bar or and the post, if one of those goes in, I think Wales win that match.
Yeah.
I just think they do. They were, but
And every chance of beating Italy in the current situation
yeah,
with Italy
I
as
think they'd
well.
have definitely given them a run for their money. So you could argue if that was a concern and it was a thing that fans felt, then you could argue that might rear its head. Now, a lead safe, probably not. I think they could probably be caught and pulled into it with games to
Yeah.
go. But so yeah, those players could come back thoroughly disheartened and impacted. But I'd like to say probably not.
But I agree with you though, mate. Psychologically,
It's
you
more
can't do anything
psychologically.
about that, and
No, you can't.
which is why a nice segue to the end of the end of the pod is we're working with Huddle Up who look at well-being,
Yeah,
wellness, state of mind, all that kind of thing. Not saying for players, but for same principle.
yeah.
Fans get
Uh,
disheartened and upset. All sorts of factors impact on that, and the guys from Huddle Up are experts at pointing people in the right direction for support. Now, I wonder if Leeds put some support in place for the players who came back from Wales that particular time, who clearly would have been absolutely on the floor, weren't they? They were so close to qualifying, and this time as well. That's an interesting point, by the way. A lot of those players still play for Wales, don't they? A lot of those still play for Leeds, and
yeah.
if it's going to happen again,
That's why I touch on it, because you'd never ever want to question these players' work ethic and
oh no,
their professionalism, because they're all good professionals. But I think it is the psychology of your head. It's the things that go on in your head. Sometimes you don't even realize what's happening until someone kind of explains it to you. So it might just be you lose that 5% or whatever it is
yeah,
that is key to where you'd normally make a tackle or you make that pass or just have that edge. And it comes into the same things, doesn't it? It's and particularly a couple of years ago. I mean, look, championship season is brutal. It
yeah,
literally never ever stops, and the pressure on Leeds to perform and to have got automatic promotion was huge, wasn't it? So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like you
yeah,
come back from one thing, you're literally on the floor, and you've got to raise yourself, not to like a normal. It's raising yourself above a normal level, isn't it? Because when you're playing for Leeds, and the expectation is it is that kind of
yeah.
110%. You've got to raise yourself that bit more, and maybe it's just that little bit more that just wasn't there.
It's the marginal gains on that
The
subject because
marginal gains, yeah.
conscious of time. We'll keep an eye on that for Leeds and see if their
See
players
if
from
it's yeah,
Wales,
yeah.
have come back and can grasp getting back into it because I don't think they are. They're not directly in trouble right now, but they're not out of it
But
either, are
not
they?
absolutely safe, are they? Yeah, they're kind of in
No.
the middle ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right, mate. Well, listen, as ever, great to share the podcast with you.
and you.
Club v Country, great subject as well. By the way, I think there's a lot in there that hopefully
Oh,
will get
yeah.
people. We've mentioned previously that we are now in association with Huddle Up. The details for Huddle Up are on the screen for those who watch it on YouTube. They're going to be in the show notes. Adam Franklin and Connor Botterill. Say hey, SAYHEY at huddle-up.co.uk. Have a look at them on LinkedIn. They're doing some great work, but they need your help. If you're got any influence, Championship, EFL, National League club, and you're around supporters and mental health and well-being and wellness, just get in touch with these guys. They'll do some fantastic stuff for you and your club. Okay. Um,
Absolutely.
e- Episode 43. We've decided to talk about, it's a massive subject. We might have to do this over 2 episodes, mate. The sorry state of football finances, right? Will
So much to
football
talk about.
will football eventually implode? And um, you know what? It's worrying because if you look at things like the housing market in the UK, they have boom and bust, and they have bubbles, and the bubbles burst and they reset themselves. Football hasn't reset itself since the early 90s. It's just got a pressure point financially. We're going to discuss all of that, aren't we, on the next episode?
Yeah.
But other than that, Dom, brilliant, great to catch up with you again, mate. We'll see you on Saturday for the Pompey game,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. So yeah, thanks for your listening, watching, supporting. Subscribe if you want to on every podcast channel that it's available on. Comment, like, share. Check out Huddle Up, and we want you to help us to grow the podcast. We'd love your comments and thoughts on what we've said. We're not always right, but we've got an opinion. See
Yeah.
what you think. Do you agree with us? Have we been too harsh on Arsenal? No, we haven't. Let's see what happens from there. Thanks, folks. Dom, see you soon.
Cheers, mate. Really enjoyed that one. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Thanks, mate. See ya.
Cheers. Bye.